City of Paris, I guess you can hear me, huh? Well, welcome to the City of Paris Planning Commission meeting, September 7th, 2022. Welcome that we have air conditioning. We can turn it off if you want. You know, you guys don't look like you really want it, but we'll leave it on. Okay. We have our call to order, and our roll call will be taken by Lupita.
Commissioner Gomez?
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Here.
Commissioner Lopez?
Here.
Vice Chair Shively?
Here.
And Chair Hammond?
Here. Thank you. And at this time, we're going to move to the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Lopez. Could you please stand?
Ready? Begin.
Thank you very much. Just a note, I think it's just a standard note that we still have Zoom. So anyone that's willing to be part of the public comment on any of these items or general public comment area, of course, can be Zoom. Our wonderful IT people will keep us up to date if anyone wants to speak on the Zoom. Eventually, well, I don't know, we probably will keep that forever. But anyway, as we move on, we don't have a presentation that I know of. So we move on to consent calendar. Item 6A, Planning Commission minutes for August 17th, 2022. Were there any changes, deletions, additions? Okay. I didn't have.
I didn't see any. I noticed a little bit of abbreviation of a few things, but yes, we're good.
Need to change it, or we? Okay. Okay, seeing that there's no changes, we have to open up a public comment on the consent calendar. Does anyone on Zoom or anyone in the audience have a comment on public? Sorry, I keep hearing this sound. On the consent calendar, public comment. IT?
No, sir.
I'd be shocked. Okay, and in the audience. Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion? You can verbal. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Jimenez, a motion.
Moved by Commissioner Jimenez
Commissioner Lopez, a second.
and seconded by Commissioner Lopez.
Commissioner Gomez?
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Chair Shively? I'm so sorry, Vice Chair Shively?
That's okay. He has delusions of grandeur. It's okay.
One of these days. One of these days. Yes.
Thank you. Chair Hammond?
Yes.
Thank you. With 5 yeses and 0 nos, this motion passes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to clarify, who made the motion and who seconded? So Jimenez motioned and then Lopez seconded.
Thank you. We move on to item 7A, public hearing. Specific plan amendment, SPA 21-05125. A proposed specific plan amendment to update the Green Valley Specific Plan, GVSP, for consistency with the Paris Valley Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, PVALUCP, and compliance with Senate Bill 330. Applicant Matthew Villalobos, Raintree Investment Corporation, Requested action is continuance of this item to the Planning Commission meeting on September 21st, 2022. Pretty straightforward. Do we really need discussion or public comment?
There's no need for discussion unless there's any public comment, or you could just make a motion. I would
Right.
defer to our attorney.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Since the item was noticed for public hearing tonight, I would suggest that you open the public hearing to allow any comments from anyone that has shown up, with the understanding that this item will be continued to the meeting of September 21st. After that occurs, then we would entertain a motion to continue it to 9/21, second and vote.
Okay. That's what I thought. Just wanted to hear from him. At this time, we open it up for public comment on item 7A. If there's anyone on the Zoom with our IT or anyone in the audience that has public comment on this particular item.
None from IT, sir.
Thank you. And there's no one seems to be in the audience, so we close the public comment portion. Since there's no discussion, the idea of requested action is continuance of this item to the Planning Commission meeting on September 21st, 2022. Do we have a motion? Probably have to verbalize it. I'm not sure.
I'm having, I'll make a motion.
Okay, that's Vice Chair Shively is motioning. Oh, there we go. Okay.
This is Commissioner Lopez. I'll second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Lopez. Thank you. Okay.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes?
and Chair Hammond.
Yes.
Thank you. With 5 yeses and 0 nos, this motion passes.
Thank you very much. Perfect. We move on to item 7B of the public hearing. Scoping meeting for an environmental impact report. I use the word scoping meeting for an environmental impact report associated with Development Plan Review 22-00002, investing tentative parcel map number 38446. A proposal to develop 28.9 acres of a larger 37.05 acre site with 2 industrial warehouse buildings totaling 648,630 square feet, located at the northeast corner of Getz Road and Mapes Road. I'll read it anyway. APNs 330-100-025, 330-100-028, through 330-100-3030 in the light industrial zone. Applicant Derek Barber, Richland Developers Incorporated. Requested action, conducting a public scoping meeting to review, discuss, and provide comments regarding the proposed project for the preparation of an environmental impact report. Just for the sake of consistency, are there any ex parte communications, anything of the nature?
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we proceed, I would ask that if it's a pleasure of the commission to do a 3-minute recess. We're experiencing some technical difficulties on our side.
Okay. Well, of course. 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yes, thank you. I think we're all in agreement. Right? Okay.
One time I was like on slide 5, and they were showing like slide 2, and they were like looking at me like, what the heck are you talking about? And I was like, sometimes it's your best friend, and sometimes it's your worst enemy.
Yeah, we grew up down in Hankton when we were real young. There was nothing up at the Marine Base, Lion Country Safari, it was all open.
I went to summer camps there.
Now it's a housing tract property.
It is, actually. The Wild Rivers is gone, except they rebuilt it now over where the base used to be. It literally just opened this summer. But yeah, Lion Country Safari and Wild Rivers and Irvine Meadows kind of built all that.
Oh, Ryan Meadows is gone.
Yeah. Well, they moved all of that into the Great Park. So they kind of, they took all of that, put it over in the Great, they call it the Great Park. And then, yeah, it's all park and city. I mean, like that, do you know the Irvine Spectrum is kind of right behind that shopping center? I remember when it first opened up, it was a movie theater and like a food court. And now it's like one of the top shopping destinations in Southern California. It's unreal.
It's crazy, the freeways all around it, I mean, they've got all the toll roads and stuff, I'm just lost in right in the middle of the area.
Yeah.
You have to, you can go
Every which way. Yeah. But yeah, my parents got married down there, and El Toro was just a dirt road. Like there was like, orange fields, and that was about it. So
Did I visit?
yeah.
I think I visited.
But we were like at the very top of the street, you know, it was still hills
Yeah.
and coyotes.
Yeah.
And now there not too long ago, and I was like, wow,
Yeah, similar to kind of like here, when I grew up there, there is one McDonald's, and it was up off El Toro, and this would have been 85, 86 or so. It's a good question. It's for Makes Commerce Center.
220002.
What are you looking for?
So we're a club in Paris. For the Ultralights? Okay. Thank you.
Ooh, excuse me. Okay, we're reconvening at 6:21 p.m., the meeting of the City of Paris Planning Commission, September 7, 2022. Sorry, that's what I get for drinking soda. We're conducting a public scoping meeting to review, discuss, and provide comments regarding the proposed project for the preparation of environmental impact report. Does staff have a presentation?
Mr. Chair, before we begin, I think you were about
Oh,
to ask
I
for
was.
ex parte communications on
I-
item 7B.
Yeah, 7B, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Asking for ex parte
Ex
communication.
parte, yeah. Ex parte, yeah. Any ex parte, yeah, that's what happens when you have the break. Was there any ex parte communication? That's exactly where I was. Ex parte communication, site visits, or anything that you want to reveal at this time?
No. Commissioner Jimenez, I drove by the site.
Commissioner Jimenez drove by the site. I drove by around the site, not through it, but around it. That's Commissioner Chairman Hammond.
Commissioner Shively, I have been around the site quite often.
Okay.
Commissioner Gomez, none for me.
Commissioner Lopez, I have none as well.
Okay, thank you. All yours.
Thank you, Chair, for that introduction, and good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Alfredo Garcia, and I am your Associate Planner. And as mentioned, this evening we have before you the Mapes Commerce Center Industrial Project EIR scoping session. So the purpose of tonight's scoping session is to provide information on the project and allow the Planning Commission and interest members of the public, organizations, and agencies the opportunity to comment on the preliminary assessment of the environmental issues that would need to be addressed in the project-specific EIR report. And again, the scoping session is a public hearing, but no action is required at this time for the proposed project. Also, in mention, tonight's presentation will be a two-part component. My portion will be to just introduce the project in overall aspects, and Ms. Megan Truman, who is the CEQA consultant, would expand upon the CEQA portion of tonight's presentation. As far as the development entitlements of the project, it's three portions. The first part is the Development Plan Review 22-00002, the Vesting Tentative Parcel Map 38446, and the certification of the Environmental Impact Report. The project site is located in the southern portion of the city. It's comprised of 37.05 acres. It's located at the northeast corner of Getz Road and Mapes Road. For further location, it is located just west of the Paris Valley Airport and just north of the Channel. Here we have before you a site photo, which is a street view looking north along Mapes Road. This is another panoramic view at the terminus of Mapes Road looking northwest of the project site. Here we have a street view across the street along Getz Road looking east towards the project site. And this is a site photo, which is a street view looking south along Paseo Adelanto. With respect to the general plan land use designation and the zoning, both general plan and zone designations call for light industrial on the project site. It's also surrounded by other industrial uses. It has land uses of light industrial to the north, general industrial to the west, and to the east we have public zone, which is comprised of the airport area, and to the south we have the Green Valley specific plan. And within the Green Valley specific plan, that triangular component has a designation for industrial uses. So it will all be surrounded by industrial areas or heavy use areas, because the airport is not an industrial use. With respect to the Paris Valley Airport plan map, the project is not in an airport accident potential zone 1 or 2. It is bisected by the Zone D, which is the flight corridor buffer, and by the B2, which is the high noise zone. Both uses still allow for the warehouse component. With respect to the ALUC compatibility map, the entire southern area is in Zone E, which is the airport environs zone, which is of low noise impacts with respect to March, and the risk is low. Also not in an accidental potential zone. This is the site plan that staff has been working with the applicant on. This is the proposed project that will still go before you for the ultimate review and blessing of the project. For now, we are proposing, the applicant is proposing 2 industrial buildings. Building 1 is comprised of 502,590 square foot industrial building on 24.6 acres. Building 2 is 146,040 square feet on 12.4 acres. Both areas will share into an open space comprised of 379,450 square feet, which will be open space floodway area, which will not be developed. That is the southern portion that's rectangular to the project site. Just for added information, both buildings are being designed to segregate the employee parking and the truck parking. Truck entrances will take from Mapes Road and exiting going north, right only going along Getz Road. Trailer parking will be screened by 14-foot high walls with respected landscaping and other water quality measurements that will be taken into consideration with their reports. Here we have before you Building 1's elevations. The project proposes a modern industrial architecture. It will be painted. It will be a painted concrete tilt-up panel with low reflective materials, heavy use of windows throughout the site, separating cap, wall, and base, as well as proposing metal canopy awnings at the entrances of the office locations. These are the images for the Building 2. Again, the same architectural elements are being used for both buildings to create consistency throughout the entire project site. And with this last slide concludes my presentation. Ms. Koniki Dobreva, who is the Vice President of the Environmental Planning Division of their company, as well as Ms. Megan Truman, who's the Associate Environmental Planner, are here this evening to speak about the CEQA component of the project. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Megan.
Good evening, Commissioners. As Alfredo mentioned, my name is Megan Truman with EPD Solutions, the CEQA consultant for the project. So the California Environmental Quality Act applies to all discretionary actions, and essentially a discretionary action is any project where an agency can use its own judgment in deciding whether to approve and carry out the project. And the purpose of CEQA is to disclose project impacts to the public and to decision makers, to identify feasible ways to avoid or reduce potential impacts, otherwise known as mitigation measures. And the purpose of CEQA is not to analyze whether a project is good or bad. So the purpose of the meeting here tonight is essentially to provide an overview of the proposed project here before you and to solicit comments to refine the scope, focus, and content of the Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, that our team is preparing. As Alfredo said, no decision will be made at the meeting here tonight on the project. So this slide gives an overview of the environmental review process. As demonstrated, we're currently at the scoping meeting. Previously, a notice of preparation and initial study was circulated. It's currently out for public review, starting on August 26th, I believe, through September 26th. And all of the red boxes show where public input is available into the process. The green boxes essentially demonstrate when documents are being drafted. So after this scoping meeting, the next step would be to prepare draft EIR, which takes approximately 4 months, give or take. And then you would post and circulate this notice of availability that a draft EIR is up for public review. You get 45 days typically for public review as mandated by CEQA. After the public review concludes, there's a final EIR that's prepared, including responses to any comments received by the public, agencies, or any other organizations. And that final EIR is then distributed 10 days prior to the Planning Commission for the project. And then we have the Planning Commission hearing. So the purpose of the EIR is essentially an information disclosure document. It shares information with the public regarding the project's potential impacts, along with identifying ways to avoid or reduce impacts and implementing mitigation measures to reduce those impacts. In addition, the draft EIR will include an alternatives section that will analyze potential alternatives to the proposed project. It promotes interagency coordination and public review by the public, agencies, and organizations. And it essentially provides a comprehensive environmental document that serves to inform decision makers and the public and the decision-making process. So as I mentioned before, there was an initial study that was prepared for the proposed project that is currently out for public review. And there were 4 areas that were determined to have less than significant impacts, therefore are not going forward to the draft EIR. These topic areas include agriculture and forestry resources, mineral resources, recreation, and wildfire. And then the topic areas to be further analyzed in the draft EIR include all of the ones listed above, including aesthetics, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, energy, geology and soils, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, land use and planning, noise, population and housing, transportation, tribal cultural resources, utilities and service systems, along with mandatory findings and project alternatives. In some cases, technical studies will be prepared to support the draft EIR's analysis, such as in the case of air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, among others. And those technical studies will be included as appendices to the draft EIR, and their analysis will be summarized within the draft EIR sections. As I mentioned, an initial study was prepared, and that contains analysis of all of the CEQA thresholds included in Appendix G to the CEQA guidelines. This initial study describes which thresholds would result in less than significant impacts and which require further analysis in the EIR. It also contains a brief description of the project location, and where certain documents relating to the project can be found. In addition, a notice of preparation, or NOP, was prepared for the project, which notifies all responsible agencies and organizations, the public, and other interested parties that an EIR will be prepared for the proposed project. The NOP solicits input regarding the scope, focus, and content of the EIR that's currently being prepared. And the initial study, alongside the notice of preparation, was distributed for a 30-day public review period and comment period from Friday, August 26, 2022, through Monday, September 26, 2022. The initial study and notice of preparation are available via these forms. They're available on the city's website. They're also available in person at the City Hall planning counter, and a digital copy of the initial study and NOP are available upon request by contact to Alfredo Garcia, whose contact information is provided in these slides. So in order to submit written comments on the notice of preparation and initial study, you can either mail or email these comments to Alfredo Garcia at the address and email provided, and all written comments should be sent and received by Monday, September 26th at 6 p.m. The public comments should focus on environmental issues or concerns you'd like to see addressed in the EIR, any comments about the environmental review process in general, and general concerns about the EIR process. So I believe at this point, we will open it up to you guys for any questions regarding the EIR and the environmental review process. Both Connie and I and Alfredo are here to answer any of your questions and comments.
Thank you very much. And at this time, do we have any questions? Now, we're talking about the scoping meeting. And then we tend to all do that, get off into development. But any questions either side for the environmental persons or Mr. Garcia concerning this project? And we have Commissioner Jimenez. Looks like you want to go first.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Quick question.
Yep.
I noticed that the recreation was not included. Would you review what the standards are or why that was not included as part of the EIR?
Yes, so the recreation thresholds, there are 2 thresholds for recreation, and these were analyzed in the initial study that's currently available for public review. Essentially, the impacts would be less than significant. It's an industrial development that wouldn't really result in a lot of visits to any recreational facilities or any new recreational facilities. Therefore, impacts were determined to be less than significant, and that's why it's not going to be included in the EIR, but it is available for public review within the initial study.
Okay, but we wouldn't be able to include, I'm just wondering, because I know the airports there, they have the skydiving, there's a few things in that area, so I wasn't sure if it was the impact it would have on existing
Okay.
development or if it was based on something else.
Yeah, so it's both. It's like impacts to parks, things like that, and impacts to the airport will be discussed in the EIR as well.
But
Not
there-
necessarily in the recreation section, though.
Oh, okay, not necessarily the recreation, so that's, it may still be covered, just not in this section, but it is covered in the initial.
Correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Anyone else at this time? It's like Commissioner Shively. Vice Chair Shively.
The portion of land that is south of this property, which is which is part of the Green Valley specific plan, that northerly portion of is that portion of land also in the preserve area?
In the MSHCP reserve area? Or-
Yes. This lot of land to the south of this specific project. That
I-
might be a question for staff.
Yeah, that might be a question for staff.
I'm not used to sitting over here, so. Vice Chair, are you referring to the floodplain area?
Yes, absolutely. The portion of land that's above the San Jacinto River, the northern part of it.
Okay, I may have to pull up
You
a
wanna
map
pull it?
here real
Yeah.
quick.
Yep, the purple shaded area.
The purple part of the Green Valley specific plan?
Yep, the purple triangle portion above the San Jacinto River.
Correct, yes. So that is part of the Green Valley specific plan. That area does have components for proposing general plan, and there are some open space areas there too, but I don't have that map.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Gomez, thank you for your presentation. My curiosity lies in, if you could help me, or if the staff can answer this for me, again, with the Green Valley specific plan area. First of all, where it says where the public, what is that zoned? The blue, the dark purple, do we know?
So the public general plan designation and zoning would apply to the Paris Valley Airport to the east.
What is that? What does that mean exactly?
I have to, generally, it's just
Uses.
public facilities,
Public uses?
airport, things of that nature, falls into that classification.
Okay. So the Green Valley specific plan area on my map would be in the south side, where Chair Shively was just mentioning. Is that area also, is that area also light industrial, or is it residential?
In the Green Valley, that is, I believe, is zone light industrial in the Green Valley specific plan. Just want to let you know, there is constraints in that area. It's in the floodway and it's in the MSXCP criteria cell, so which would restrict how much could actually really be developed on that parcel.
Okay. How far is the nearest residential area to this project site?
Would be just south of the river, which is highlighted in blue there,
Just south of that?
just south of that. But that, just for your information, although it's zone residential, it is also in a criteria cell and it's also in a floodway. So there's a lot of constraints for that to be developed.
Okay. So I would say it's well, it is right next door. Okay. How near is the next residential area that's already been established in that area?
I believe we have that in the initial study. Just give me one second. The next currently existing sensitive receptor,
Yes.
so like an
Yes.
existing resident that exists, is approximately 3,160 feet west of the project site. So there aren't a lot of existing developed residents around that area. And impacts to sensitive receptors will be addressed in the air quality section of the draft EIR related to any trucking, diesel particulate matter. A technical study will be prepared that thoroughly analyzes any potential impacts from project construction and operation on those residences there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I piggyback off of that one?
Yeah.
Because that's the nearest, how close is the nearest zoning for residential development? Did we have that? Because that's the closest existing, but what is the closest residential zoning to this area?
I think you would have to measure it from the southerly boundary of Mapes Road and go across the San Jacinto River. And if I can recall the scale of that river, it's about 1,000 feet, that blue area across. So you would just kind of approximate.
Yeah,
About
so
2,000?
couple thousand feet.
a couple
probably.
thousand feet.
So that is the closest zoning for residential to any of the four corners or any of the perimeter?
That is the closest, but I would put the caveat that, as I mentioned earlier, anything south of the San Jacinto River, the first couple, maybe even 1,000 or more feet, it is constrained by the floodway and it is constrained by the NMSCP criteria. So if anyone wanted to develop that, they would have to go through that process to figure out what is developable.
Okay, now would we be able to do the sound mitigation from that point where they would develop? Because if they go through that process, the potential is that they would be able to build, right? We don't know.
Yeah, so an EIR essentially would look at what's currently built and existing in relation to the project site based on when the notice of preparation was posted. So that's any currently built residences. However, say there are mitigation measures, which we don't know yet, we haven't done that analysis, but say those would be in place for the project site and wouldn't change whether there are certain residents adjacent or future residences south.
Okay, so it's what's developed now and not. So we can't request that we take that into account, I guess is what I'm asking.
So there is some discussion in the EIR of land use compatibility, but you wouldn't look at any specific environmental impacts related to air quality emissions or noise for any future residential development, no.
Okay.
Commissioner Gomez, can we request that to be in the EIR?
So it's not technically something that we would do based on you're analyzing what's in place in the environment at the time that the EIR is prepared and the notice of preparation is posted for public review. Any future residential development in that area is speculative, so we're not able to assume that future residences would be there. And
But yes, because it is, hi, hello, my name is Connie, let me help. Because it is reasonably foreseeable that in a residentially zoned area, you're going to have residential uses, we can do some noise measurements at the residential zone and predict what the sound would be from that, so we can absolutely take a look at that, because part of doing cumulative analysis in the EIR is looking at what's reasonably foreseeable, so we can take a look at that, and we can disclose in the document how far away is it, what do we expect the noise to be at that nearest residentially zoned area.
Thank you, that's what I was getting at. So same thing with like the gas emissions, the greenhouse effect, all that stuff from
pollution.
that foreseeable. So as close as we can get to that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and also, as residential projects come in, right, in that residentially zoned area, then they'll have to do the analysis when they're coming in. But for land use compatibility purposes, we'll absolutely take a look at it.
Thank you.
Rashad, any? Okay. I was not going to say anything. And sticking to the potential scoping and not getting into all the other aesthetics about buildings and all that. Some points I want to take into consideration. One of the things I like is that they're doing alternatives. I've had to get on EIR people about alternatives. They tend not to do it. They're required to do it. I don't like when people come and I have to remind them as commissioner to do what you're supposed to do. Doesn't mean that that's going to be acceptable, but you have to per sequel. So I really appreciate at least putting that up front. Some points. One, deal with transportation now. And these are some questions because their measurement is going to be based upon how these things are looked at, not just the flow, but the egress. We're proposing Mapes Road, which I'm not told whether it's going to be a truck route officially or it's not a truck route. That makes a big difference. Is it a truck route, staff?
Mapes is not officially designated a truck route, but
They'll
in
use
some side streets, we do allow people to get there to get to the main truck route, which is Getz.
Okay, so that makes a difference in how this is looked at because the trucks are proposed to go in that area. So we're talking vehicle traffic going along Getz Road. There you have your VMTs, you have all that measurement. We don't have adjacent housing like we normally would, so you're not going to have that impact in terms of noise to that. The airport is next door. That's a different scenario altogether. One thing I did see was refrigeration. Now, if you're going to put refrigeration as part of the scoping, then you have to deal with that separately. If you're going to have refrigerated units, we've got to see something that deals with refrigeration.
Correct. Yeah.
Whether it's there or not, as part of the actual building, you got to look at that because that makes a big difference in the facility. It might be 50%, 75%. We need to see that potential impact of having refrigerated facilities there because that can have an impact on greenhouse, all the other things. Also, engineering, I hate to put him on the spot because I know John's not here. For water resources, obviously we have open space next door. There's no detention basin here, so water would flow into what a pipe along Getz, or would water flow resources be looked at in terms of that open space? How would the water be measured in terms of that impact of where it would flow? Oh, just state your name since you're sitting in for John.
My name is Cameron Saber. I'm covering for John Purkazmi. He's out of town now, so.
Yeah, how could he?
Yeah, thank you. Fortunately, the Getz Road project, as you know, has been recently done, and then there is a storm drain system under the road. So this project will drain the storm drain to the storm drain under the Getz Road. As far as the water quality goes, they go to the southeast corner for the water quality pond, I guess, in that triangular shape. Did I answer your question, Mr. Dwayne?
That would be potentially the detention basin proposed?
Yeah.
Okay, the south, I should say southeast, that open space area.
Right.
Okay.
It's directly north of the open space area.
That little triangle there.
Yeah, the triangle
Okay.
and then the basin along the corner of Mapes and Getz.
Basin is there, right.
Okay.
That triangle shape.
So the proposal that we look at in terms of water would be going into what the existing pipe that's along Getz Road.
That's for the storm drain.
Right,
But portion of this water should be subject to the water quality, should be filtered and purified. That goes to that pond.
Okay.
That pond can easily, after that, overflow to that white area on the southeast corner.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
actually the floodplain. So this project is that close into the floodplain, so they can discharge into that for that portion of the water quality.
Okay. So.
But the majority of storm drain will be drained into under the Getz Road project because there is already a pipe there to receive the runoff from this site.
Okay. That would be one of the things that have to be looked at, the water flow. The triangle, we like the permeation, that would be the first, and then they could drain into the larger open space area.
They can do that.
Not that we
They
have a
the
lot of
option.
rain here, okay? Not that we have overflow flooding, but just in case you get that once in 500-year thing, the water would have to flow there because that's an important issue down there.
Yep.
You just don't want water sitting and standing, so that would have to be looked at in terms of that surface area, and then it goes into the larger area, the open space area.
Right.
Then you have the channel, whatever they call that, that could also be drained into there.
Which
I'm
channel?
Don't have the picture. The San Jacinto.
The San Jacinto River by itself is a river.
Right.
So it's a receiving entity of the waters.
But it would not be planned or proposed to drain into that in case there was an overflow. It would just stay in the detention basin area.
Yeah,
Okay.
portion of that water, but the majority will be drained.
And-
Portion that is determined by the formula, just
Yeah.
a small portion of the entire precipitation is subject to filtration and
Right.
purification. But the majority of it is allowed by regulations to go into our storm drain.
Okay.
That's how it works. Just portion of the water is purified or infiltrated to some extent.
Okay. Well, that would be one of the parts that's also
Yeah.
consideration. I think you answered it, but it's important part because water is a big issue right now.
Correct. A water quality management plan will be included as one of the appendices to the draft EIR, and
Right.
all of that will be summarized in the hydrology section.
Lastly, and I say lastly, it doesn't mean it's last. The also aesthetics, and because it's next to an airport, the glass. The reflection issue has to be looked at. I'm not going to get into the architectural drawings where I think it's good, bad, or horrible. It's the idea is that if you have glass there, obviously we're not going to have solar, but if you have glass there, it has to, that impact of reflecting glass that could reflect up to flights, that's one of those considerations. What impact would that have? If you have a lot of glass, it's focused on the west side or the socket on the east side, that's going to be an issue. So, you have to look at what aesthetically can be done to make sure that we don't blind the pilot that's flying in, because that's a constant use there. So that's one of those considerations too, to make that. I think, and you live down that area, so you know better. But if you talk about Green River area, I think they're building, I don't know what that street that comes out. It's not Ethernet, it's the next street that kind of parallels it. It's one that's in between there, has a signal there, and I don't have it in front of me. There are building things over there in that area, I think houses. See, and then we talk about, this is the problem, they're not built, but you can't deal with not built, you can only deal with the fact that it may be zoned, so if you put sensitive receptors there, you're just putting them there with the potential or future potential that there might be houses there. But even then, it might be 2,000 feet or 3,000 feet. But that's what we're talking about, is that if that's it all possible, just be a sensitive receptor, whatever noise impact that would have. You do I say VMTs, there's other studies too, more technical than that. But the idea is that we're talking the square footage of a warehouse, there's going to be so many trucks, it's all planned out, it's all done in the reports. To that extent, if it's that far away, how much of an impact would that have if it's 2,000 feet or 3,000? The noise actually that you have from the airplanes is one noise, and it's decibels, 65, 85, whatever it happens to be. If this added to it, would that be adding to the noise? Because is it 24/7? So those things have to be, if it's 24/7, I don't think it's going to be Amazon. But if it's 24/7, you're adding to that. That's why they're concerned. We're not just asking stuff out of clear blue sky. If there are houses and you're adding to, so if that's going to be an impact. I'm not even going to get into Menifee, okay? But the idea is if there's going to be an impact at all, we just want to make sure. It may not be at all. There's going to have to be look at mitigated MNDs and all that other stuff. But the idea is that can be looked at up front. And so if this is 1,000, this is only like 30 decibels, 20, because the farther away you get, obviously.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
That's more in line with why they kind of asked.
Yeah. Thank you for that comment. As Connie mentioned, we'll make sure to include that in the cumulative analysis in the draft EIR to analyze potential noise from the airport with the addition of the project's noise sources as well.
There will be, before she starts, because of the cumulative possibility of across the way, it's proposed industrial. Now, this becomes a cumulative effect. They haven't proposed it yet and gone through the stages, but the idea is you have industrial on the west side. So this project becomes in conjunction with the others. Now we're looking at cumulative effects in that area.
Correct.
So that's why the importance of knowing if it's not going to be a truck route, it's not going to be officially a truck route going south. If it's going north, we've got to make sure that if it's going to be measured, it's going to be measured about going north. So that traffic on Getz Road now becomes a little different than it is now. Okay. So all these things, you can tell we asked a lot of questions here, right? But that's pretty much mine. And I think it's wonderful you've laid it out all, but it's just one of those things we're just looking at things the general public's not going to know a lot. We sit here and look at this all the time. So obviously we're going to have more detail. But I appreciate it. I don't really have anything unless I think my other ones do. Commissioner Jimenez does.
I did want to ask about the transportation too, because I was interested in the truck routes, just the impact, because there's houses to the south. I think a little bit further to the east. And also, you know, I think when we're looking at airports, it's March Air Force Base is one type of airport, which is huge. They have Amazon, they have big things. This is a small one, so looking at small aircraft carriers, because reflection might be different, their instruments are different. So just looking at the difference between like a huge airport and the type of aircrafts there versus a small one where you might have somebody who's a private owner of a small plane and they're flying on their own, and the reflection will be different. Their instruments and readings is different too. That also recreation, I guess, I want to go back to that just because, you know, I'm thinking there's a restaurant there. There's, I know we do some of, what is that, parachuting? And then to the east, there's also the Orange Railway Museum. So I think there might be an impact there because if you're having some kind of event and there's a lot of truck traffic, and I know when they have events, it gets really, really congested. So just looking at transportation when there are events, when we have, I know the airport has events sometimes too, just the amount of traffic that is there and the potential, because, you know, looking at the aesthetics of it too, what will you be able to visualize and see from the airplane, from the landing and takeoff as well? Not just what's visible to the street, but what's visible to the airport as well.
Right. Thank you for those comments. So the hazards section along with the land use section will address compatibility with the Paris Valley Airport that's next door. And then the transportation section will address potential impacts related to traffic, and a traffic impact analysis is being prepared for this project that shows, you know, the truck distribution and all of that. That's going to be reviewed by the city staff as well.
Okay, and I'm sure there's parameters, but if we can extend them to the max with transportation study.
Yeah.
And also just, do you know if there will be specific to the type of planes or aircraft that are being there? Because I know part of it is a B2 location, and I'm not exactly clear on what the, other than the low noise, I don't know what other limitations there are, but is there something in the EIR that specifically targets the type of aircrafts that are going to be in the area?
Yeah, so it'll look at aircraft in general and any potential issues related to height. There's going to be an airflow study done as well for the project that'll be included in the draft EIR that'll essentially look at how these buildings will affect airflow for those types of airplanes as well, and all of that will be analyzed and disclosed.
Okay, so you said in general, is there a difference between a general and a more specific to the type of airport?
So yeah, the airflow analysis is very specific to the Paris Valley Airport and the type of aviation vehicles that are there.
Perfect, thank you.
Anyone else? Are we good?
Are you gonna ask additional questions from public, or you can?
Oh,
Are we
that's
going to come back to further discussion? I thought this was just a session to ask specific questions to it, and not direct questions to the EIR. I thought it was just.
Well, the scoping. You can ask anything that they may want to have scoping issues. They want to know what the parameters. So if there's things that you need to discuss based on the scoping, all these issues of transportation they're going to study, they want the information and know how specific.
Okay, I thought we were going to have a different session to that, so we can specifically
It would be now.
address those issues. But if that's the case, then I will add a few items to what I would like to discuss. One of them is the part of the floodway zone and the northern portion of the Green Valley specific plan. They'd also be in a light industrial zone. I'm kind of curious on how much area actually is in the floodway zone or the preserve area, and then what is the actual use of the proposed road, an extension of Mapes Road all the way to the airport, and whether if the airport actually uses that access road or not. If not, can we review the actual extent of that road and perhaps maybe even reduce the length of it, and to be able to allow for more open space in that area? Can it be cut back actually to the entrance of the building 2 and then an additional road being ran into the diagonal shaded area to get access to building 1? Reducing the actual Mapes Road length.
At this point, we're just going to talk about the scoping issue. That would be if and when.
Well, that's my
Yeah.
question,
We
is
get
if
really
that can be reviewed
later.
in part of it.
Yeah.
So,
The impact of Mapes Road, let's put it that way, the Mapes Road
absolutely.
and,
And the other concern
Mhm,
is the far western part of Mapes Road. If it does intend to be a truck route, I remember 3 years back when they actually installed the asphalt on that road. They didn't do anything but pave over top of it. So I don't know if it's durable enough to allow heavy trucks to repetitively drive over top of it. And that's the portion that extends to Betty Road, all the way down there. And then Betty Road itself, it connects to the 74. So it could be a viable truck route to access these areas as well. Those, if we can add that into the review in the IR, I would appreciate that.
Thank you for those comments. We will make sure to analyze Mapes Road and the access points off of it to the project and potential access points to the airport in the draft EIR. In addition, we'll make sure to analyze the truck routing off of Mapes Road and on Getz Road.
Okay. In addition, this is also a part of it is the vesting tentative parcel map. I'm not exactly sure where the parcel is going to be divided in two, because right now it's 4 parcels, and I'm assuming it's going to be broken down and combined into 2 parcels. And I just want to make sure there's the landscaping aspect of this is covered, and we have plenty of landscaping for an entire project.
Thank you for that comment. Yeah, landscaping will be discussed in the draft EIR's project description as well.
okay?
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else with any questions for our illustrious presenters today? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
At this time, we have opened it up for public comment. And I first start with the IT people. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No, Chair Hammond, we do not.
Okay, thank you. We do have 2 submitted addresses to the commission. You're going to have to help me with the last name. I'm sorry, Pat. I know both of you, but I can't pronounce. So we have Pat and Melanie. What's the last? Help me with the last name.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Pat can answer, Paris Valley Airport, and Melanie can answer.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we get into general public hearing comments, perhaps we would give the opportunity to the applicant to
Is he here?
make any comments.
Oh, I didn't know that was the applicant. I thought he was with the airport. I'm sorry.
I think he's indicated that he does not want to provide anything, so.
Yeah, I thought you were with them. I'm sorry. I didn't.
I guess this will be twofold. I'll start. Pat can answer. My sister
Okay.
and business partner Melanie can answer.
Okay.
First off, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, Planning Commission.
Pull it to
A little
you.
closer?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, I'd like to thank you all for your time and the opportunity to speak on behalf of the airport. Currently in the proposed rendition, the airport, we're opposed to the project. I mean, just in a nutshell, it's too big, too close. The FAA has a proposed study right now they're working on, and even their study shows that it's too high, too close to the airport. We are a public airport. We're proud to be the Paris Valley Airport. We're not just a real small little airport. We're a 5,000-foot runway, which is kind of unheard of anymore. They're not building any more of them. We're going to go away. And we are one of the air sports capitals of the world to be proud of. And I'll let my sister speak to that, because she's definitely an expert in the field. My background is more the aviation, the aircraft side of the house. I take care of the airplanes. You'll see me out there pretty much every single day. And I love it. It's been my life for 47 years now. We've been out here as a family. And basically started with nothing, a little dirt field. There were 6 lights on the horizon, and we didn't have to worry about these big industrial buildings walking over us because we were the only people around. Proud to say I graduated from Paris High School. Anyway, as it stands right now, it is a big concern of the airport. And I'll start with the main FAA-approved and regulated runway. According to ALUC standards, FAA standards, the preliminary report that I've seen so far, unless you guys seen something else, it's showing it too close and too big. And our biggest concern is mechanical turbulence and wind. Not only running into a building if you have to have a go-around or something like that with an airplane or have an airplane issue, but the effects of the building downwind for airplanes and parachutes. And like I say, I'll let my sister speak to the parachute side of the house. But something that is not in any of the plans, ALUC approved or otherwise, is our Ultralight Runway. And there's a few people here, gentlemen, that fly off that runway daily. It's a runway that's been there since the early 80s. It's basically a 1,000-foot runway for ultralight aircraft and light sport aircraft. It's, on paper, it's a one-way in and one-way out airport. They come in over the canal, over that clear space and floodway areas, and just stay, because they can't fly over houses and stuff like that because they're small. They're almost like a motorcycle with wings. And you've probably seen them flying around the valley. But anyways, their approvals are such that they have to stay away from populated areas as well. So it's just kind of a one-way in and one-way out runway. So they'll approach from the south, and these gentlemen could probably speak to that, from the south, landing to the north, and then take off from the north to the south. Now, there are some buildings. There's a big Spalding building north of the runway, but the safety out has always been, like, say if you're landing, if you can imagine driving your car and coming up to a stop sign, not being able to stop for some reason, the wind went awry or whatever, and you had to keep going or go around or dodge a stop sign. Well, their opportunity has always been to the west. So they'll hang a left turn, go to the west, continue on, and not have any issues. Well, that building is going to be right in the middle of their safety out. They're going to run into a 45-foot, 50-foot tall concrete wall, which was not going to be good. So that's the part of the public safety concern there. And then the airport is a public airport. It's a public approved runway that just anybody, if you have a small airplane, you want to fly from Orange County and come in and land at Paris and go to the restaurant and have lunch, you're more than welcome. You can tie down overnight. We have many people come in for all the auctions and that kind of stuff on a daily basis. So we get a lot of transit. We call them transit aircraft traffic, as well as our current jump airplanes and our fleet of equipment there. So it's a pretty active little airport. It's much more active than most airports, and we're proud to say. And the skydiving being our bread and butter. But there are a lot of issues that we need to look at really hard. To answer a few questions, the Mapes Road entrance, that is the back entrance to the airport. Our military clients typically use that. They like to, that's probably 60% of our business anymore. They like to come in and out the south entrance away from the public because a lot of stuff, what they do is public sensitive. So we do use that Mapes entrance roadway. It historically has been the back entrance to the airport. It is just a dirt road. And I understand the clear space function you were trying to preserve, Mr. Shively. I appreciate that. That is a floodway through that whole section, and that's the reason we got the airport, and that's another long story. But that is all floodway through there. I was wondering about the roadway going to the buildings. It's up a 5-degree slope. If it's supposed to be floodway, if you put a raised roadway through the middle of it, would kind of create a dam in my mind. But I just not looking at anything but the site plan stuff that you guys have. So there's a few questions, but that's not my world. My biggest world is the airflow, how it's going to change the environment. And on that note, if any of you have any questions, I would like to turn it over to my sister, and she can share the skydiving aspect of it. Oh, one other thing, the Green Valley project, as it's proposed right now, the lower right-hand corner house-wise, I think they're about 670 feet off the top of my head to portions called 6A in the Green Valley project from our main landing area. And then that would be the closest proposed housing development there, as far as proposed, to my knowledge. And then the only other housing that I know of is actually, just due west of Mapes just due west of Getz on Mapes Road. There's a trailer park over there, as far as the noise component. There's about, I'm just guessing, probably 50 residents there at least. So, but like I say, I thank you for all your time. I appreciate all the staff's hard work and that they've done protecting the airport for all these years, honestly. Ellen?
Thank you. And just state your name for her purposes.
Melanie Knatzer.
Okay.
And like my brother said, thank you to the commission for your years of support and protection. This is big. We've had the luxury, really, of growing our business for almost 47 years, utilizing a lot of property that, quite frankly, hasn't been ours to use. But it's been available, and we've used it. And we've used it. What it's allowed us to do is grow into one of the largest skydiving centers in the world. We do many 100-way or 200-way formations every year. And if you can imagine, we drop them over the airport, and you need separation to get 200 people away from each other so they can deploy their parachute safely. We scatter. We go, we travel. So I'm just saying we have used this space to land in, not intentionally. Often it's used as an alternate emergency landing area. But like we said, we also realize this, times are changing. And just to be honest, it's sad. It's with the development that we believe is on the horizon, it's probably the end of, the beginning of the end of the airport. And this isn't the first airport we've seen shut down from housing and development. We're trying to stay optimistic. We're trying to still figure out how to run our business. But we, like Pat said, have some real concerns. And he did mention the Ultralight Park and the gentlemen that fly out of there also use that Mapes Road. The Ultralight Park is just east of the, just east of the west border of the project site. That's their entire runway there, and then they've got clubhouse and many little ultralight hangars. Anyway, so we do a lot of skydiving here, and we've prided ourselves on safety. And what we need to do this safely is clear space to land our parachutes. Unlike airplanes, skydivers don't have an engine that they can put more power to and go around should they not like the landing conditions. One of our biggest concerns is that the project is directly west of our student landing area and our military landing area. But this is so large, we just have no concept of what the mechanical turbulence could be that's created from a building this size. Certainly the height, but just the overall vastness of it. So we are asking that it be part of the EIR to do a very extensive wind modeling, and we would even be willing to help participate in giving you the questions that we should be asking, the information that's going to be needed to put together a real analysis, not just something that looks good on paper, because it's going to be an awful shame if we don't do the work now to learn that, oh my gosh, truly this could be a huge safety factor for us. And if I could just explain a little bit, and I'll try to wrap this up, but for us, so winds, when we see the wind direction, that's all given us information as skydivers. The direction is given from a windsock. So you know which direction. Parachutes have to be landed into the wind. They don't have to be, but it's not pretty. You've probably seen plenty of that out at the airport. But ideally, you land into the wind. So windsocks give us an idea of what landing direction we need to go. And these are all, lost my thought, sorry. They're visual cues, thank you, brother. Such as like a dust devil. You know, you see those, right, driving down the road. It's like, how can you miss it? Those are fabulous for us as skydivers because we've got information to make our decision. So we can choose to land somewhere else. The scary part about mechanical turbulence, it's silent. It has no warning. It's just there. And I can tell you, because it's happened plenty of times, landing beyond trees and things like that for myself. Your canopy collapses. It's just does it collapse at 10 feet or 50 feet, and you go straight down. So this part, as well as looking at if you want to save the Ultralight Park, you know, those are two major factors. I think the FAA will help us ensure that the height of the building and the scope of the building meets within their regulations. But there are these studies have not been done. I've been searching within our skydiving community. As of yet, nobody has done these types of studies. So it's critical that we get it right. So that's what we ask of the project and of the commission to help us keep the airport around a little bit longer. We're trying here, and we want to continue to build a world-class facility. And if you have any questions. Oh, well, Pat's the pilot and mechanic of the family, and I started skydiving many years ago. I have about 6,000 jumps, and anymore, that's not really that much to brag about, but I am proud of it.
We're coming to the end. We appreciate it. Don't mean to cut you off, but we need to move on.
Okay.
We need to
yes.
move on, but
Thank
we appreciate.
I was leaving that out till.
That's okay.
Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Good night.
We were all getting in trail with the story. We liked it. We anyone else? No. Yes, sir. If you just state your full name and spell your last name.
Thank you. My name is David Gardner,
Okay.
and I rent a hangar at the Paris Valley Airport, and I fly a light sport aircraft. Right up here on the map, directly on the border where the new proposed project would go and over into the airport, that's our runway. And we drive in and out Mapes Road. It gets daily use. It gets a large amount of use. And that's our runway. And as was explained very well, the wind conditions concern us. Wind rolling off a 50-foot building causes rotors like this, and they can literally make a light airplane just fall right over on its wing into the ground. And so we like space away from buildings, a lot of space away from buildings. And that was the point I wanted to make. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else before we move on? Okay. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Okay. At this time, I'll do something unusual. If the developer would like to, wow, okay, that answers that. That would be the time, or forever hold your pieces, we say. Right? Okay, okay. Well, this is a scoping meeting. We're not taking a vote or anything on this, so there's really nothing you can add.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we move on, I would recommend closing the public hearing.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that was the end of all the public comment, right?
Right.
Right. So unless there is public comment. Yeah, okay. We close that portion, public hearing portion. I'm always available because it's kind of speak now or, okay. We don't need any discussion here, right? Yeah, we just a scoping meeting. And remember that it is a scoping meeting, so we won't get into details. It's not that we're not interested. It's just the idea. And I appreciate also the input that you've given to them, and something that's unique about this airport. And we appreciate it. I've been to the airport. I've been around for 32 years, so I know you're there. Been there several times. I'm not going to jump out of the sky, so don't look at me. It's not going to happen. No. Okay. With that, I can get back on the screen. Okay. That's it. What's going on here? Oh, okay. We have any business items? Item 8. Doubt it. Okay, we move on to item 9, public comments. Anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission regarding items not on the agenda may do so at this time. You can walk up to the podium and wait for the chairperson to recognize you. Or if it's on Zoom, IT will let us know. We generally, and I'm glad it came up, I finally got it on, we have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission, because I was waving it there. But anyway, at this time, it's public comments on any agenda item. Is there anyone on Zoom IT?
No, Chair Hammond, there is not.
Okay, wow. Anyone in the audience with public comment? Okay, seeing no public comment, we close item 9 and move on to commissioners' members' announcements and or reports. Anyone can start.
This is Commissioner Lopez. I was fortunate to go to the Enchanted Hills grand opening at the park. I was super happy to see the turnout. It's honestly one of the biggest turnouts I've personally seen. I saw so many community members show up to it, and it was a beautiful park, a lot of things to do for the kids. I was a little sad that Chair Hammond didn't want to do the zip line with me. But overall, it was a great experience just seeing the community go out there. And I know it's been really hot lately, so I just hope that the residents is doing their part in trying to stay as cool as possible, drinking lots of water. Besides that, thank you for everyone coming out, and have a good night.
Okay. Whoever wants to.
Commissioner Gomez. I felt the pressure, my colleagues up here. I'm so glad that the turnout for the Enchanted Hills opening, I was scheduled to go, but last minute I could not make it. It was just too hot. Like, I commend everyone who was out there that day, brave souls. Like, it was so hot, but I'm glad to see that the community showed up to support that project. I think that's the most important thing, and we definitely needed it in that area. I just have some questions for staff. I have a question regarding the newly implemented the truck route. Does the staff have a rollout of the truck route enforcement, or is there a plan on how to? I believe the website says that the truck route will be established as of August, is it 26th or 28th? I'm not sure, of this year. And we've seen the signs coming up all over the city, which I'm happy to report. But what's the plan on getting that enforced? Because there's still so many trucks coming in, and with Labor Day, it was even more. It was really bad on Tuesday. Ramona Expressway was more than 50% big rigs, and not just cabins, but like loaded trucks. It was really bad. So how's that going? Is there any information on that? Kind of code enforcement, or if we have Riverside helping out with that county?
I
Sheriff?
will comment or director's report based on what's happening right now.
Okay, thank you. I think that was my only question for tonight. So, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Jimenez, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad everybody had fun that was able to go to Enchanted Hills. I was on mommy duty that night, so we were doing the band booster event. There was a football game, and I was on mommy duty. So while you guys were having fun at a park, I was hauling stuff back and forth from snack bars. But it was fun. But I do want to echo what Commissioner Gomez is saying. I had to take a trip today, and when I was coming back, I got off on Ramona to make a left. There was 3 trucks, and all 3 of them were there's 3 lanes, and there was a truck in every lane. Then that first stop, all of them stopped, and they take 10 hours before they get going again. And I saw the signs, and I'm like trying to point at them. But, it doesn't help if there's just a sign and people are going to do what they want. And I did notice that, I know we say that for delivery or pickup, but I think that just means anybody, because anybody can justify pickup or delivery if that's the wording we're using. And if they were on Ramona but using 1 lane, but when you have 3 trucks and there's 3 lanes and each one of them wants to be in their own lane, it kind of backs everybody up. So, I kept my cool, I promise. Also, Evans and Ramona, still a problem. Still, I know last time, I think, oh my gosh, I just went blank on his name. Oh my gosh. Our engineer, yes. He said that there should be signage, electrical signage, still no electrical signage. At least now they're putting up little road work ahead maps. But the right-hand turning lane going westbound on Ramona has been closed every day. When you're coming southbound on Ramona to try to make, on Evans trying to make a left on Ramona, one of those lanes has been closed every day. When you're coming eastbound on Ramona and trying to make a left up to, on Evans, one of those lanes is closed. So there's lane closures everywhere, and the signs are like road work ahead, and then there's a road work. And there's no projected end date. There's nothing letting us know when there's going to be road work. So that was, after getting stuck behind 3 big rigs today, trying to get my daughter to school, then I had to deal with the street closures. So I had a very tough day today. But, I think letting people know so we can plan ahead or kind of work around it, I would have taken a different street had I known all that was going to be happening.
Okay, it's John.
John, yes.
Yeah, he escaped tonight. Yeah. Vice Chair Shai.
No, we know his name is John, but try saying his last name.
Yeah, that's
I have no comments for today. Keep it short.
I'll claim his time. Just really quick. Regarding the trucks, there's a really big issue with them doing truck stops at the restaurants on Ramona Expressway because they're waiting to drop off their loads. I know now that's what they do, but that's not the place to do it. So there needs to be a designated area for them to wait, and those warehouses where they're dropping off need to be alerted. They need to be held responsible as well. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'll be brief. Only 2 hours. No. I want to first say that, and piggyback on Commissioner Lopez, we both went hot weather. It's estimated there were 800 to 1,000 people. It's the biggest event in the history I've ever seen in Paris, and I've been here 32 years. Nothing was as exciting as that. Sorry, guys. Nothing. People were coming and going, and I left at 6:30, and they were still in line for food, maybe 100 people. I gave away my food ticket as a city. We just gave it away. Said, you guys stay there. You wouldn't stand in line at 90 degrees, you can get the food, okay? It was excitement. People were coming all. They were there before it was even time. They were waiting. We couldn't get in the parking lot. Every space was filled. So we had our little ceremony and you had to walk all the way. It's not a good day to walk. It was a lot of good walking up to the zip line, all the way down. Kids were all over the place. It lets you know Paris is not Paris of 1990. Okay, it's 2022, and they were packed. Skating, I'm not getting on the skateboards. Every single aspect of this park was packed. And they still have some landscaping issues that they need to do. I'm always going to be a planning commissioner. But it was an exciting event, and it just goes to show where we've evolved as a city. It was a great event. It was an exciting event. Kids were running over, but all different ages, too. And they were out there in heat. They didn't care. It's their park on that side of town, which basically has nothing for several years. But that was so exciting to know it's going to be constantly used. They even had, I went back another day, so I showed my wife, and they had a security guard. And I was questioning it. He was driving around, so they have security there, physical security. So that makes it good, too. One of the questions I had going, and I know our planning manager's been quiet. One of the issues, and this is an update before I get to the next point, and I'll be quick. When I was talking about Van Buren, do you know the progress of Van Buren in their connection with our street? Because obviously that's going to be an intersection. You talk about trucks and traffic. What is the progress? I'm not seeing anybody doing anything on Van Buren. I'm looking at that big, gigantic, 2 million square foot warehouse building, whatever it is. But is Van Buren currently being built, and have they been talking to the city about connecting to, what is that, Westward Way or whatever? So is there any progress on that? Mm-hmm.
I will get back with you on that one. That's not my jurisdiction.
Right.
But I'm going to find out from Stuart and John, and then come back, and then we're going to send email to all the
Because once they
members.
work with it, it'll take time because they got that gigantic warehouse. But then they connect to us, that's when the problem becomes.
Yes.
Because
I know
all those
exactly.
people that have been going that way now are going to start heading into Harley Knox. And so you think you had issues on Rapona before, when they start coming from Van Buren, because you can't go through the cemetery. So you got to use Van Buren going west. People are going to love that one. And Paris is going to stack up. So that's one of the things that I was looking at. So in the future, we can get to that one. I think the signage and the things like that, the truck are going piggyback on, that's a major issue. They're also going down C Street over here. They're going down D Street. So when you live in these areas, you see it. So they're using every other street. Even though they're not official truck routes, they're driving it anyway. Yeah, so it's one thing if you have to building some project and concrete and all that stuff, and you transport, but they're constantly using it. So I don't know how you do that unless you have police enforcement. Police enforce based on signs. Okay. Lastly, and I'm going to say, and it's nothing to do with the project at all, the positivity that I think about the airport. And I took a tour there. It's a great place. Went on the hottest day of the year, of course. But they will give you a tour. You can also eat the food. There's a swimming pool there. It's probably not for us. But the idea is that you've been around a long way. You're not going anywhere, so stop talking about going anywhere, okay? The city is always behind you, so that's not even a discussion for us. If you decide, that's one thing. It's not us, okay? But it's one of those local things like the water park, like the Big League Field of Dreams that nobody even knows is there. But it's part of the 24, whatever number of parks. I think we have 28 parks in the city. We have a lot of great resources here. It's just a matter of connecting them now. So people could spend a week here or 2 weeks here when we get a hotel. They could spend a week or two here just going from yours, spending a wonderful time there. This lazy person, like cheap person, I'll just go on a 10-foot drop. I'm not going up. But you even have that option. You've got the ballpark, you've got the swim center, you've got all these other things, and even the paintball. But we have a lot of stuff in the city, and we need to really, as not just commissioners, but to push. That's why we had the business people here, the economic development. You got to push it. No one else is going to do it. So we've got great events like yours. You've been around a long time, since the 70s, right? And it's the Southern California Railway Museum, incidentally, not and so they're there, and I've been in that, and I hate going in August, though. But a lot of good stuff here, and I always want to be positive and end on a positive note. Great stuff here. People always talk about warehouses, but they don't talk about all the facilities that we have that are good. Think about it. Does Menifee have it? No. Does Murrieta have it? No. Okay, and not even Temecula. Sorry about that, Kenneth. They don't have it. They have winery, but they don't have these kind of things. We've got something that we can be proud of. Okay? And so we need to espouse that, and we want to do what we can to preserve that. Okay? So that's all I need to say today. I'm going to turn it over to the planning manager or the director, whoever wants to go. That's up to you guys, but thank you very much.
Good evening, Chairman Hammond and members of the Planning Commission. I'll give Patricia a pass for this meeting. So there's quite a few questions that were being posed, so I'll answer as many of them as I can at this moment. But before I start answering some of this question, I do want to bring up Enchanted Heights Park grand opening. It was an exciting grand opening. It was a park that was really needed for an really underserved area of town that's been needing a park where there were kids who didn't have a place to recreate. The park is, I would say, is the nicest park in, if you compare it comparably in size. You can go to Orange County, you can go to Riverside. It's probably the nicest park out there if you haven't been out there. There's a skate park, there's a zip line, they got artists who paint rocks to look like shapes of animals. So it's a really exciting park. There were director of parks for the entire California state was there, and he was very moved by what was going on. So when I drove there, and I forgot, it was like a holiday weekend. I was trying to drive about 5:40 before I can't remember the exact time the grand opening was, at 5 or 6, but I drove 20 minutes early, and I got there like just before the opening, and I had to park in the street. And by the time I got into the park site, there were so many people there. I thought it was like I was walking to an amusement park. How many people were walking around? So it was really exciting. So I just wanted to comment on that, just because it was an underserved area that's really in need, and it was a really exciting park. If you haven't been there, I would encourage you just to drive by. On to just a few matters, just upcoming activities of the city. There's an end of summer splash and movie at Mercado Park on Friday at 6 p.m. So if anyone of you are able to attend. And then on this Saturday, there's Let's Take a Hike at Cabian Park, which is in the southern end of town. Mr. Shively has no excuse. He lives down that neighborhood. But so just want to let you know what's going on in the city. In terms of some of the activities that are going on, as I mentioned, there's ICSC. There's 2 events throughout the year. There's one in Nevada, and then there's usually a smaller one in Orange County. And so some of our staff members will be attending that at one and end of this month, and I'll be part of that attendance. And so I just want to let you know, we're still trying to communicate with the developers and trying to keep that contact going so we can try to really attract commercial development into Paris. So just want to let you know that's going on. The other areas of interest that you brought up is the truck route enforcement. That's still an ongoing thing that we're working with our assistant city manager and our city engineer. So we're working on larger signs, more prominent signs. We've been working with PD. We're still trying to solve some issue just with the signage. Just want to let you know there's some nuance in terms of how we can start implementing it. But we have been ticketing people who are parking along Ramona Expressway parks. Hopefully that is a discouragement. Sometimes it just takes time. There's certain things we are implementing already. So we are trying to do that, but there's some logistic that needs to happen. I can talk with our city engineer just to see how much update we can give you probably by the next meeting. But just want to let you know that is ongoing. But it would take time. It does take resources to make that happen. The other question that was made was the Van Buren connection. That building is coming up quickly. My understanding is that building will be completed probably towards the end of this year, early next year. Just for your knowledge, it's not widely communicated, but as part of that development, the city did get a $7 million contribution for the impact to Paris. So we got half of that already last year. We'll get the remaining half later this year or early next year. That is part of the circulation network between the March and the city of Paris. So that connection is part of the circulation element. As part of that project, that was their mitigation fee to the city for that connection to happen. But in terms of trucks occurring with that project going to Paris, there will be some truck traffic going down Western Way. We don't anticipate trucks beyond on the west side of the 215 to go onto that roadway. They would just get onto the freeway because usually that's the most direct connection. That's just when we discussed it. But the other benefit is trucks on Harley Knox can go on the side road and go up Van Buren and get out of the city. So there's another access route instead of using a Harley Knox. So it does open up that there's mutual benefit to some degree. Just wanted to just make sure that was discussed, and when we negotiated the contribution amount, that was how we came up with that solution, because it's part of a network system, so we couldn't necessarily close that roadway system. But I just want to give you an update regarding that. Other than that, the other thing is, as you know, there was an item that was continued to September 21st for the Planning Commission. So just anticipate that happening. There's a possibility it might not happen, but just tentatively put that on your calendar. We'll figure it out by next week if that meeting will be on schedule or not. With that said, I think I covered every topic that was asked.
I have one question, and it's come up to many people in the community. Next to Aldi, that little space there, is that a Walmart gas station? What is going on there?
That is a Walmart gas station.
Okay. It's a Walmart, yeah, that is true. I've been telling people, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that was pre-approved
A long time ago.
A long time ago. They're just coming back to put it in.
Gas station, okay. Thank you very much. We let you off this time. That's okay. But we appreciate the audience. We appreciate staff. Lupita, we appreciate you. It looks like you've got it going now, right? Okay. Takes a little while, but we're not easy. We're all over the place, but you keep up with us. You can do anywhere. Okay. At this time too, stay cool. At least we have air conditioning here, so that's why I'm dragging things. You have to go home and turn it on. You got to spend your own money, so it's much easier here, right? But anyway, we appreciate our director who's got a lot on his plate now, and we're going to be putting a lot on hers. I'm pretty sure if she's still with us after 6 months, right? But thank you guys. We appreciate it. Onward and upward. Things in Paris. With all the heat and the fire that's going on out in Hemet and all the smoke blowing this way, be cognizant of that. But, we still have to be positive. And the city, even with the truck stop, we'll work it out, sit down with the police department. But a lot of good stuff going on here. And people are coming around and they're seeing that. So it's just a matter of getting the message out. We have these wonderful facilities. Can't do the 70s anymore. No banners over the street. Even the city's talking about, those digital signs now. That was the city council. They went digital. So the old banner stuff, I know we're old school folks. Oh, yeah. That's 1970s, guys. We're not there anymore. So you're going to see digital this, digital that, digital. Okay. Our IT people, we got some IT people that could be working at that, news networks. I mean, they're fantastic. You hear that, IT? Make sure. But thank you. We're going to adjourn with that. And if there's nothing else, thank you for showing up today. We're welcome back. We didn't beat you up today, right? We were pretty good. Okay. We will if you want in the future. It's no problem. No. And thank you for our interpreter. I think he still may be back there, but we appreciate it. And thank you, guys. And with that, we adjourn. And stay cool. Thank you.